Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 886, Premier League Preview. The grass is more resilient than you think. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Hanging in there. Weather's been great here. How's the weather been for you? Any more heat waves, aka summer?
So our heat wave has just ended today, basically. So the
Coming back
latest
tomorrow.
Probably. I don't even look too far ahead in the weather forecast. I know for the remainder of this week, things, oh my God, I'm dying as I speak about it, but things are getting like back to more manageable levels, and we're actually supposed to have some rain, which is nice. Because, I mean, all the grass here is dead. Or I guess technically, as I've been informed many times, not actually dead because grass survives way better than you think it has, but it's sort of like retreated into the soil until it's reached a stage where it knows it can reemerge. I don't know what these distinctions
Who are
are.
you having these conversations with?
People who know a lot about grass. But
why are you talking to those people? Those are the people you don't need to talk to.
Well, the thing is, it's been a huge talking point, right? The grass all over Europe is just brown now, brown and crunchy. So like everywhere you go, people are speaking about it. And I have had multiple people tell me grass is more resilient than you think it is. Which is like, I don't know if I'd previously thought about how resilient grass is. So that's quite a bold statement to make in telling me that my previous assumptions were wrong because I think I had no previous opinion on it.
Forget everything you thought you knew about grass.
No, or just specifically how resilient you thought grass was. Maybe we'll do a full episode on the resiliency of grass.
Speaking of which, we haven't had many travel updates lately. It's been I guess a dull few weeks. I mean, you've had some travel, but none of us have had big trips in a while.
No, I don't have. I'm off to Canada in September. That's my next big trip.
When is that again?
Middle of the month, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, sometime.
I will be going to Giants opening game against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football.
Nice. I'll keep an eye out for you. Let's see if you can get yourself.
You can come hang out.
Yeah. No, that will be interesting. And I got to go to the south of France again, speaking of dead grass. So we'll see how that is.
Dead ass, you say?
Dead grass. And then obviously we're in the midst of still finalizing the plans for our Breeders' Cup trip. So,
yeah. You guys, for all I know, could be showing up for 3 months or 3 days. I got no idea what's going on.
Well, I guess it'll be me the longest. Olivier, I don't think is ever going to Minneapolis. I don't think that's part of his plans, so you can kind of strike him off the list. David, I think, will fly the same day that I fly out, but he'll obviously leave prior to me. And then Sam, I don't know. Sam is trying to, former co-host Sam, he's now trying to, I'll blow up his spot just in case someone who works at his company is listening to this.
Oh, he's trying to get a trip to pay for it to go back to Hudson.
Yeah. He's trying to weasel his way into anywhere in the U.S. He just
Great
wants,
move. I love it.
It's very on brand for you.
He's going to go to like Seattle, and the flight from Seattle to Minneapolis is going to be more than like London.
Well, he was telling me like, oh, the flights are so expensive. I looked into, I haven't bought my flight yet. It's true that flights to the U.S. and stuff, the transatlantic flights are a bit more at the moment. Yeah. Although surprisingly, my flight to Canada, and I compared it, like I bought my flight to Canada not long after I'd bought my flight to Texas, for example. And and I know it's further, Houston versus Toronto, but like definitely flying to Houston was way more expensive than flying to Toronto is, which is interesting. And maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll fly to Toronto and then drive to Minneapolis if Sam really wants to save money. But
not as close as people think.
No. And but
I'm more north in Minneapolis than you will be in Toronto, by the way.
Well,
people don't know that fact very often. Yeah.
They don't know how resilient grass is, and they don't know that Minneapolis is further north than Toronto. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so he might be flying to New York. He might be flying to Boston. He might have to go to Wisconsin first. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he's just trying to talk his work into sending him to see a client somehow.
I love it. I like that. It's a good move.
See, if I were his boss, I would never approve that. If an employee came to me and said, hey, I want to go to the US anyway, I think I should go see a client at the same time. It's like, well, would you go see this client if you weren't going to the US anyway? No, I wouldn't. So I'd be like, no, we could probably save that trip for a few months from now when you need to go back. But J&J are obviously desperate to see him. So, got to use the cool inside baseball pharmaceutical talk. So
J&J. They just cut it now to JJ.
Oh, yeah. No,
They're
no time
shortening
for
it.
the and.
No.
It's just waste time. Shows what a noob you are if you still throw the and in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this episode, we're going to do a lot of our
Premier League preview. And I can't believe the season's starting already. It's crazy.
Yeah, it has come quickly. I guess the World Cup sort of means that it feels like there hasn't been much football off season. And I mean, the championship got underway last weekend. The Scottish Premier League started 2 weeks ago. So, football's been back already. But one of the big themes, obviously, is going to be new coaches.
Oh, the first time, man. Taking all my talking points.
But I don't want to talk about the new Premier League coaches. I was going to set us up to briefly discuss the NFL because I saw some interviews with Chicago Bears players who were talking about Ben Johnson's, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, his work ethic, which is that they've been coming in for some off-season workouts and they arrive at 6 a.m. and he hasn't gone home. He's sleeping in the facility. And I mean, this is a guy with a wife and I think a young child, but he's there 24/7 basically in the build up to the season. And I kind of have to wonder, are coaches in sports in general taking themselves a little too seriously? And do you really need to be, how much tape is there to watch and how much analysis of that tape is there to do? I don't understand this idea that is the real difference maker in your season the extra 3 hours a day of tape that you're grinding that means that you can't go home and spend some time with your family?
I saw this exact post and I wish there was a technology available where I could upload this and say, this is something Eddie will react to and will be his response. Because I saw that and instantly was like, I know what he's going to say. Do they really need to be there all day? What are they doing all day that they need to sleep at this facility?
I don't doubt that they're doing things. Turns out he
actually lives 3 hours away, so it's just easier for him.
Well, that's his. I don't know. But even if that's the case, then he should rethink that. But I just watched some of the Mourinho documentary as well, which is really interesting, and because he's a very unique person. So
yeah.
And then there's been some news coming out about Pep Guardiola and the sort of mental breakdowns that he had over the last 2 years as Manchester City manager, including post a match against Juventus in the Champions League 18 months ago or so, where he broke down in tears after the match and then told the team in the dressing room that he was getting a divorce and sort of had this emotional breakdown as he was delivering the news in response to them playing poorly. But maybe the prerequisite for being a head coach at an elite level is that you're kind of a psycho. And they don't understand, in the same way, I like Pep Guardiola. He seems like an interesting guy. He definitely seems to have been totally consumed by his responsibilities at Manchester City. I'm not going to say that's the reason why he got a divorce, but it certainly was probably a contributing factor. And I just wonder if some of these guys, someone needs to take them aside and be like, we didn't used to do this. A lot of the head coaches that you really admire from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was not really any tape to grind. And there wasn't this level of preparation going into every match. But you think they're brilliant. So why don't we just try and kind of emulate what they were doing? And I know Sir Alex Ferguson, the talk always when he was at Manchester United, he was first in the building, first to leave. But he wasn't sleeping there. He was just getting there at 6:30 in the morning, like a guy who's just dedicated to his job.
But isn't the problem though that is no longer what's happening, and because now the person you're going to be playing against is grinding 10 hours of tape, you also need to be grinding 10 hours of tape? Whereas back in the day, they weren't grinding tape, but the coach that they were facing also wasn't grinding tape. So you're still at a level playing field.
I guess. I don't know. Like
I am sure that the play calling and everything has gotten much more complicated than it was 20 years ago.
100%. And I mean, obviously, the NFL is a different beast to say Premier League football. I don't know in the Premier League, certainly at a good team, how much are Manchester City or Arsenal or Liverpool or whoever really adjusting their approach based on their opponent? I would probably say not that often. Yes, when they play one of those other big teams, but when they're randomly playing Burnley, is Pep Guardiola in the build up to that match? They might talk a little bit, obviously, their big threat is set pieces. They like to do this. Does that take hours of, I feel like I could go into it and be like, oh yeah, they use long throws a lot. That's a bit unique. So let's maybe this week we just work a little bit on how we set ourselves up to defend long throws. I don't think that requires there's not someone sitting in some data analyst being like, oh, I figured it out. They use long throws a lot. Good thing that it only took me 140 hours to see what was kind of different from what they do. And even I would be interested to speak to a coach, either a head coach or a coordinator. How often in the 100th hour of grinding tape do you discover something that really changes? Or is it basically, what are the sort of diminishing returns on the work that you're doing there? Because is it oh yeah, in the first 20 hours, 95% of what we actually need gets done, and I get it, they would tell you that 1% is the difference. Is it though? Is Andy Reid the guy? I still think the guys who are sort of probably the best head coaches, do I think that they are the ones? I've never heard about Andy Reid sleeping in a facility. I've never heard anyone really talk. I'm sure Andy Reid works super hard. I'm not doubting
Hates
that.
the cafeteria.
I've never heard anyone talk about Andy Reid's work ethic, if you see what I mean. It's not part of the persona that he's presenting. I'm sure he works as hard as other head coaches, but
that's why they haven't won a Super Bowl in 3 years.
Yeah. And this is a guy too. I mean, I saw the Andy Reid clip the other day where he implemented a play that a janitor had suggested.
Why does he do this? How far is he going to go? First, it's other coaches. Then it's other players. Now it's janitors. What's next?
He used the play and it worked. So he said that some janitor, I think it was a janitor, but was sort of every time would tell him I've got a really good idea for a play. And then basically Andy Reid decided to humor him and was show me the play. And then he was oh, actually that's a really good play. And then it was well, we'll put it in our playbook. And then they ran it in a game. Was that janitor grinding tape for hundreds of hours in order to draw up that play? He's
probably grinding, watching practice every day for 25 years.
That's true. But I don't know. It's just I feel like we've kind of created this idea. And I think this is true in a lot of life, right? Where I think people work harder than they need to on a lot of things. I think most jobs get done in less time than people think they need to do them. And I know that there's that theory, whatever it is, that work expands to fill the time that you assign to it. But I just think, I don't know. I think you could be a dedicated head coach, show up at 6 a.m, go home at 8 o'clock at night, still see your family, take Sundays off during the off season, maybe even take Saturdays off during the off season. I think you could probably get away with it and be present for your children's lives. Not just be. That seems doable to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems doable.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the NFL, we had the first round of preseason. Was there anything that you wanted to discuss based off of that? I mean, obviously, a lot of the starters don't play the first week of preseason. Usually, the second or third game, you'll see them for a quarter. But there were some starters went out for a drive or two.
Yep.
Josh Allen, I think, was a pretty notable one in their opening. Was it called Highmark still? The stadium, the new stadium they built. They played and scored a touchdown on the opening drive. So
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't read too much into it. I know I've seen some clips of like rookie receivers who looked good. I don't know how much to read into whether a rookie receiver playing against a corner who probably won't play a single snap in the NFL, like how much to read into that. But, I like the Niners and the Browns. Like I saw positives about both of their receivers. The Browns, obviously, just disastrous outing for all of their quarterbacks. You sent me that clip of Shedeur Sanders saying, like, he basically implying that he never makes wrong decisions. He just maybe executes poorly sometimes. And I've just made that sound.
That's what he was trying to say. I don't. Yeah. It was really tough to try and weed out with his fucking random jargon he was saying. But
no, I think I've just made what he said make a lot more sense than what it is he actually said, because he basically said, I just slipped, it was the right read, it just slipped, so that's what makes me mad a little bit because of it. But any decision I make, I know it's the right decision, I just didn't execute the decision. The right decision was made. That's verbatim for listeners. It's hard to read something that dumb, to be honest with you. But it would worry me if I were for two reasons. It doesn't really show any degree of accountability. I think he would say it does because he's saying I executed poorly, but to imply that every decision you make is right is not really
I don't make
saying,
mistakes. Just unlucky things happen when I make the right decision.
Yeah. And then on top of it too, because then part of it goes
even the word slip implies that it was like an accident, like the word slip is like I had a great throw and it just like slipped out of my hand as I was throwing because the ball's a little wet. Like there's no accountability for like I made a shit throw. You know what I mean? Like I threw that
and the wrong
poorly.
read.
Yeah, I made the wrong read and I threw the ball poorly. It's like no, I made the right read and I had a great throw. It just slipped.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It would worry me if I were a coach, one of his teammates, and I just don't know if you're the Browns, to have three quarterbacks, none of whom are, I don't even think they're NFL backup quality at this stage, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, obviously with Deshaun Watson, there's nothing they can do. They can't cut him because of the impact it would have on their cap. If I were the Browns head coach or GM, I think I'd probably play Deshaun Watson because whilst he is horrific and looks nothing like the Deshaun Watson of like 6 or 7 years ago, I would still in the back of my mind think maybe, just maybe, if we give him 7 or 8 games, he gets to like 80% of what he once was, which is still way better than our other options.
Yeah. But I mean, he hasn't played in 22 months.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But he does look really bad and I know I could have joked about what am I supposed to read into these clips from training camp? You do see the Deshaun Watson clips from training camp, and that I think you could read into like, oh, those are just terrible throws over and over again. Like
they're just slipping.
Yes, just really wet balls in Cleveland, obviously.
Yeah, maybe.
And then the other big note, I mean, you said, what do I want to read into the starters? Obviously, Jackson Dart managed to get back into the blue tent. And I saw this like crazy statistic, which is that in 43% of his career starts, including preseason games, Jackson Dart has visited the medical tent. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, have you heard his press conference about it as well, where he said, it's getting a little ridiculous that he personally is getting called into the blue tent. He doesn't know why it's always him. Every time he plays a game, they seem to be targeting him to go to the blue tent. And it's like, dude, you got lit up by a defender and then laid on the ground for like 5 seconds. It's just someone up in a booth who they have to check boxes. And it's like, was quarterback demolished? Check. Did he hit head? Check. Did he lay on ground more than he should have? Check. Blue tent.
Yeah. It's very, and again, as always, not trying to get political. It's like quite Trumpian though, to like again, just be like, hey, this is happening. It must be a conspiracy theory. Like there must be a conspiracy against me. They want to hold me back. But yeah, like I saw him have that quote and then just clips of him just getting absolutely wrecked by people over and over again. I mean, and the only thing that I did like was some meme, which is like Jackson Dart's trying to get more concussions so that he can better communicate with Cam Scadaboo. That's but it's a little worrying. If I were a Giants fan, that wouldn't make me super happy.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the thing that worries me is I watched his drives. He doesn't read very well through his progressions. Like he very quickly bails out on going through progressions and just wants to scramble and run, and that is what's worrying to me. Because then he's going to get himself hit more because he's not like trusting the process and going through his reads. He's just looks at his first read. If it's not there, he's like, I don't know what to do. And just starts running and scrambling. Even the touchdown pass he had, he like didn't go through and then he started scrambling and then just threw it up to McAfee Fields, who made a great catch for this touchdown catch. But like, that's the worrying part to me is in year 2, you should be a little better at going through your reads and a little quicker in kind of getting in there, settling in and hitting number 2 or number 3 if you need to. And at least that drive, it didn't look like. It's tough with one drive. So maybe you just had to break up the cobwebs. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Now, obviously, we lost our last episode due to some technical and editing issues, but we did discuss Pat McAfee quite a bit in that episode. And we've spoken about Pat McAfee a number of times over the last few months. Did you see the release of his album?
No.
You haven't seen this. So Pat McAfee has released a like country pop album.
Oh, God.
I wish I were joking. I'm going to play a small clip for you.
I don't want to listen to it because now my Instagram's going to hear me listening to it. And I've gotten Pat McAfee out of my algorithm pretty good that I don't have to deal with his annoyance.
Well, I'm afraid I got to do this for you because, and the album is called The Diary of a Polarizing Figure, which, I'll give you a couple song options and you can tell me which one you would like to listen to.
I want the one that has West Virginia in it because I'm sure he has a West Virginia song.
Oh, without doubt. It's labeled as a blue collar symphony.
Now, are like people on his show making fun of him for this?
I don't know because obviously, I think they're supportive because he just wants to make as much money as possible, right? So, it's clear that that's all he cares about. And the thing I don't understand is who on earth this is like, who's listening to this and enjoying it. It's like AI generated. So the lyrics are written with AI and, he sort of has sort of recorded this, but then just made the songs with AI basically. So it's not even as if he has some hidden musical talents that finally he's famous enough to show us. But we'll play a little bit of Click Clack.
Wait,
the name of this song?
It said that it's made with AI? Or you're just
he's
assuming?
openly No. So he basically said he put some like journal entries, which I guess is why the album is titled The Diary of a Polarizing Figure. He sort of put some of his journal entries into AI and then asked it to write song lyrics, and it wrote the song lyrics for him. And then he recorded the vocals, but then obviously then put those into AI to actually create the song. So he did some singing, but
awesome,
very little singing. And this is, Click Clack by Pat McAfee from The Diary of a Polarizing Figure.
Great setup. I love it.
Longer intro than I thought.
You hear them horns playing, well that's the Lord saying, this shit's about to go down, ain't no more waiting. Yeah, from ashes came to ashes, in the dust went up the dust, and now it's about time to go and fuck somebody. Yep, I got the feels like about to be iconic before midnight. So tell them keep their eyes open if they wanna see this shit's a lock. Take a shot, Halle Vinatieri. It's time to go and steal the show. Trying to be the go. Click, clack, reload.
Amazing, isn't it?
It sounds like, I think he put into AI, make every song sound like it could be the opening to like the college game day week preview
100%.
when they like have like the like week 6. This is who we've got, and got my click clack. Adam Vinatieri, whatever that one was.
Yeah, I think I've said this as a critique of music we previously listened to. It might have been the Jelly Roll song for the World Cup. I agree with you. It feels like something where he has thought to himself, this can get used on game day.
Yeah.
But it also feels like it should be like on a Dude Perfect video. Like it should be the sort of style of music that they would have playing while they made some trick shots.
It will 100% be on college game day.
Oh, I see. Here's the thing is, I think they'll make him perform it even if they think it's stupid, because they might think that it will. I think some of the people working with him might at least think that it kind of embarrasses him. The problem is he has no shame, so it won't embarrass him. And I'm sure that a bunch of college kids will be going crazy in front of him because he will randomly give one of them $500,000 if they sing the lyrics correctly or something. So I don't know. No, I don't understand who it's for.
I don't understand the world.
No, I kind of don't. I don't understand how Pat McAfee is making hundreds of millions of dollars. And again, I've criticized athletes themselves for the idea of like, we need you to do less, and just people in general, right? We should be satisfied making less money. We don't all have to aspire to be billionaires. We don't all have to it doesn't show a lack of motivation if you don't want to sort of semi-rule the world. And with Pat McAfee, I think he's maybe more guilty of that than any other athlete I've ever seen. Like, I don't think there's anything he won't endorse. It's just all pretty shameful, really. And the quality of the content itself is also awful.
So I guess then, kind of moving gears a little bit, staying in the entertainment, since we had a lost episode last week, we did not have our takes on Ted Lasso, which might be a good transition into the Premier League.
Yeah.
So season 3 of Ted Lasso, have you watched the first 2 episodes now?
I've seen the first 2 episodes, yeah.
Okay.
So episode 2, we'll kind of summarize episode 1 thoughts, which was like everyone's sort of a moron for reasons not fully explained. And also everyone felt like a caricature of the character that they originally were when Ted Lasso was good. I agreed with you. You said episode 2 gets a bit better. I agree with you. Episode 2 is definitely better than episode 1.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the other things I guess we mentioned about episode 1 is that is like a walking billboard for Kansas City for some reason. Obviously, Sudeikis is from Kansas City, but it was still very strange for an Apple television show to be like a walking billboard for that, as well as for women's soccer or women's football. Almost to the point where it got a little outrageous with some of the comparisons it was making. We won't go back into that again. Episode 2 still harps on that a little bit. And this is what bothers me so far about this show is I think if you're watching Ted Lasso, you know that women's soccer and women's football isn't regarded as highly as the men's, and they're having a lot of issues, and they have funding issues, and they have like television rights issues, and getting the same facilities and being respected. I think everyone is pretty well aware of that. You don't need to hit people over the head with it. And I think that is kind of where I'm pushing back a little bit, is like, let's just get over the fact that someone watching the show doesn't know that the women don't have world-class facilities. Like we don't need someone to be like, is this what our locker room looks like? Oh my God, it is terrible looking. Like,
that point,
just go through it. Like,
yeah, that bit doesn't bother me as much. And in a sense, like Ted Lasso coming in, it made sense as a good opportunity for him to sort of win the players, and obviously the assistant coach over was for him to show that he was actually going to help them to improve. But the thing that I didn't get to get into like the logistical side of things. So for those not watching, the women were sort of sharing the dressing room with like the under 15s, and and it was a tiny space and stuff. And then eventually, like Keely asked for money to build a new one. They don't have the money, so then she says that they can take like the visitors' dressing room instead, which is what she does, which confuses me slightly because what that implies, and I guess it sort of is how it's shown in a sense, but that all AFC Richmond teams only train like at the home ground.
Yeah. This has been like a talking point on like Instagram and stuff. People have mentioned this.
They don't have training facilities at all. And so, because otherwise it makes no sense. Like they would have, like for listener, like Chelsea train in Cobham. They don't train at Stamford Bridge. They have separate dressing rooms that they have then for training purposes versus what they have on match day. Like, and it wouldn't make sense then. In essence, the AFC Richmond women could use the same changing rooms as the AFC Richmond men at the stadium because they would never be playing at the same time.
I guess the question there is, what does it look like for like a championship or like League One team?
They're not training at their ground.
But is it like, is their training pitch just like right next to their stadium or whatever? That way, like they kind of share the facility, but like the pitch is different.
Not until you get really low down. Even Championship League One, you're going to have your ground. I mean, think when we visited Blackburn, for example.
I was going to say, don't take Blackburn as an example because they used to be good.
They used to be, but still, like, the training facilities are a couple miles away from where the home ground is. And that's where they would be practicing. That is also where some of the youth teams would be playing. Although they also then, to continue with like the Blackburn example, who unfortunately actually Blackburn got rid of their ladies team because for reasons that are discussed in Ted Lasso, they felt like it was a financial drain that they couldn't, the priority was to support the men. It's a very unfortunate decision, and actually Blackburn's ladies team was doing very well at the time. So it was a real shame. However, even then, like they then do sort of like ground shares basically with teams lower down. So say the Blackburn under 21s, when they play matches, they play, it's not Accrington Stanley, but it's someone similar to that, where they're then playing at like a League Two's ground to play their matches.
Yeah.
So they're not playing their official matches sort of at the training facility, but they're also not using Ewood Park because that's only being used for the men's games, the senior team games. So like, it doesn't make sense in any way, especially for a team that is like in the Champions League. Now we're this is what we're looking at, is a Champions League Premier League team that has one pitch seemingly for all teams to train on at all times. That pitch would be, by match day, it would be like unplayable.
Hey, Eddie, grass is more resilient than you think.
It's true.
It is.
That's the theme of the episode. and Ted Lasso believes in that. That's the kind of thing Ted Lasso would tell us. And then, he would say barbecue sauce and grass is more resilient. My dad, before he died, told me that grass is more resilient than you think it is. You got to be like grass. You just seep back into your roots. And
my dad.
Go back into your roots and emerge when the weather is better.
I agree with you. I like the... It's not that I don't like that they're pushing back against the women's issues. I just hate like when they like have a line that is just like so put in there for like no reason. It's like, did you know that women's soccer is not making any money in the last 6? Like, just shut up with these stupid like. I don't need the explanations. Just like let the episode do the talking. Like let the plot do the talking. And they just assume people are so dumb who are watching this show. Like, and that's kind of what is annoying.
my only other two big takeaways. I did enjoy episode 2 a lot more.
Because I think, do you agree? It's just more Ted Lasso being genuine, being put into a new situation, and less of like relying on the character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, although you still get it, like with Keeley and
the Coach
Roy
Beard
and
subplot
stuff.
is so stupid. This idea that,
So
again,
dumb.
he's like the assistant manager of a Premier League team, a team playing in the Champions League, and he's sort of like grown out his beard and sort of evolved into this. And I don't mean this to make fun of homeless or houseless people, but that's basically like he's some sort of tramp that's sort of hiding around the training facility and sort of. Again, I know it's not supposed to be a real world depiction, but it also isn't so outrageous that we're supposed to sort of believe that this is going on. That bit bothered me. The other two bits that bothered me, specifically with the women's team, the sort of sibling rivalry. I actually think they're trying to make us take women's football kind of seriously. That's sort of the message of the TV show, the underlying message. And the idea that you have these professional women, two of whom are sisters, who like wrestle and fight with each other and behave like absolute morons. I actually think that's a bad look for this is what professional, because in a sense, if you were a cynic and you thought women's sports dumb, you'd be like, this is why it's dumb. Because two sisters are insulting each other and wrestling each other and not actually playing seriously like the men would be doing.
Yeah, it's like Mighty Ducks. It's got a little Mighty Ducks feel to it.
Which is fine, because that's like about 9-year-olds.
These are kids and children. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
These aren't professional athletes. These are kids and children.
If this was Ted Lasso coaching the under-13s, I'm fine with that plot line. I'm not when it's supposed to be like, these are two of our most talented players, but they can't be in the same room at the same time, sort of thing. And they're like joking about like farting in each other's lockers and stuff. Like, it's just sort of stupid. And then the other thing is the goalkeeper who doesn't wear gloves. It is the type of plot line that's an American who's never watched the sport would come up with. And I bet you they'll try and there was like a Portuguese goalkeeper in the 2000s who would sometimes take his gloves off for penalty shootouts. He did that as like an intimidation factor. And I bet you if we kind of spoke to the writer's room, that's what they would say. Like, no, it's realistic. It's like, he did it just for penalties. It was a dumb gimmick that he did. But she would not have made it. Like, on a day when it's raining and that ball is slippery and she goes to catch a ball like this, that ball is just going to slip straight out of her hands. There is no way. And the thing that bothered me is the stupid theory that she had. She was like explaining it to Ted Lasso. It's like, she wants to feel the ball. She wants to, and then use this.
It's like feel the ground.
Condom.
It's like feel the grass thing.
Yeah, and then she did the condom analogy of like, don't you like it better when you don't wear a condom? Which is, again, we for a family show, it's a little bit of a weird thing.
Super
but then
weird.
my take
and also,
be,
it's super weird to say to your coach.
Yes, but then my take is it. You're wearing boots. Why are you wearing boots? You want to feel your foot directly on the ball? If this was her character, no boots, no gloves, she was like, no, I want to be.
Wow. How far are they going?
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? At least that I could kind of take. But the idea of she's like, no, I want to feel the ball in my hands. But when I kick the ball, I'm fine with a bit of like leather being between my foot and the ball. Like, it's just so stupid. And again, it is Mighty Ducks, but it's too dumb even for the Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks TV show, maybe. Original Mighty Ducks movies, this gets thrown out. This is an idea that someone throws out and everyone's like, no, guys, come on.
I don't know. They invented the knuckle puck. Yeah, but to go back to the Coach Beard part, it kind of makes me angry that he's still in the show. Or that he's going to be a main. I obviously he's going to be a main character because he's like one of the creators or whatever. But his character is not very good. Like, I don't think he ever adds much to it. And I actually really, really liked the dynamic of Ted and the former head coach who was going to quit but then stayed on. Yes. I thought that was kind of a really nice dynamic they had, where like he was already kind of starting to wear her down a little bit, and like she was starting to like some of the things he was saying. Like, it was a good back and forth between them. And now you have like this insane cartoon character coming back in who like is the most unrealistic human on the planet and just does not fit with the rest of the vibe. Like, that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, and similarly too, it feels, and I'm sure she'll continue, the assistant coach, or will continue to be a major, but they even in the show are kind of addressing this idea that like they need women in coaching positions. And maybe this gets dealt with. Maybe Coach Beard gets pushed to the side again when Ted Lasso, maybe it becomes an issue, and maybe that's a plot point that they're going to deal with over the course of the season. But the other nice thing was it kind of made it, and again, I'm not expecting Ted Lasso to be realistic, but it kind of made it a little bit more realistic of, we've brought this guy in because he's a great sort of like culture, work ethic coach. And then he's wowed by her knowledge of the sport and preparation and analysis. And it's like, okay, she's going to, and in the dumb way that they did this originally with the Kit Man, kind of sort of playing that part.
At least
for now, let's see. But like Coach Beard doesn't have a background in the sport. Like the whole idea was that he just like studied hard when they got the job originally. It just
he read a few books.
Yeah, it like was such a missed opportunity there in a sense to be like Ted Lasso sort of evolves into less of a jokey figure where he's saying like, I'm here to help. You can kind of be my protege. I'll teach you how to do the soft touch things, the human things, but you're great. You know the game better than me. You know the tactics and the analysis better than I do. And I'm going to rely on you for that. And I'm going to help bring you up to be like a very well-rounded coach. And our success kind of makes sense because you're doing the heavy lifting on the training and the preparation and all of that. And instead now it's going to be like Coach Beard like stupidly playing a part in all of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at least episode 2 was better. And that's we probably spent far too long talking about Ted Lasso, that I have 2 other popular culture things to discuss at the end. We'll do our Premier League stuff first, but I'll tease that. 2 movies that I have watched that need a slight discussion.
All right. So with that, let's move on to our Premier League 2026 preview.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got 10 talking points that I think will define the season.
All right.
I will bring them up and then we can discuss them as we go. And I'll let you take the reins on most of these, obviously. So the first one I think is a pretty obvious one, and one that you will probably have a strong opinion. I don't know. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know if you usually have strong opinions on this club, but can Arsenal actually go back to back? This, I will just quickly say, coming off the heels of a dominating 3-0 performance against Man City in the Community Shield, right? Yeah. So seem to be flying in full form to start the season. Can Arsenal do it back to back?
So I'll just throw this out. I mean, City's record in the Community Shield over the last 15 years has not been amazing. And actually, the last time they got sort of humped in the Community Shield, they lost 3-1 to Liverpool. They then went on to win the treble that season. So the Community Shield is not some excellent litmus test for where teams are. That's the only thing I'll say.
What?
Just
what?
So it's not. It should not be used as like we should not rely on it as a very meaningful data point. But still, City looked in disarray and Arsenal did look good. And so given the fact that City have changed manager, you can't have the same level
City
of...
next.
Yeah, okay. But I can't talk about Arsenal's chances of winning the Premier League without talking about how I think their main rivals will do. But without going into too much detail on that, certainly you can't have the same level of confidence that City will be City, given the fact that their head coach has changed and they've lost a number of their very experienced players. So this is not the same looking City as it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I think Arsenal should be favorites to win the Premier League based on the fact that...
Are they your favorites?
As things stand, yes. I think you look at it...
Wow.
I don't think they've lost... they lost Trossard. It looks like Martinelli's going to leave. It looks like Nwaneri's going to leave. But Bruno Guimaraes is a good player with Premier League experience.
Is potentially the top signing of the summer.
Yeah, so that's good. The Zolis player, has hit the ground running for them and everyone's raving about him. So you have to look at it and say, overall, they probably look slightly stronger. My one issue with them is I still don't have confidence in the Gyökeres plus Havertz up front. Like, are you going to be able to score enough goals in big games along the way? That's the one concern I have for them. And I know I've basically said this for Arsenal on the podcast for the last 5 years, but it does feel like their biggest point of weakness they never really address. And had they gone out, and maybe they will, there's still 2 weeks left of the window, but there doesn't seem to be any indication that that's a big. I mean, they kind of flirted with it with, when they were maybe going to sign Vinicius Jr. I mean, not that he's an out and out goal scorer, but I'll say they're favorites, but I don't have. It's sort of their favorites almost by elimination of the other teams rather than because I think they're an unstoppable force. But I do think we can kind of copy and paste them in for somewhere between 80 to 95 points. And I can't say that with the same level of confidence of any of the other teams they're competing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're extremely right in saying that you can't really discuss Arsenal without discussing their counterpoint, their rival, which is Man City. And that brings us to the next question is, what is Man City like without Pep?
Yeah, it's tough. He was there for so long, and he built basically, I guess, 3 versions of title-winning sides in the time that he was there, and he just had confidence that he was going to mostly make the right decisions. If you're positive about City, I guess you could say that over the last 18, 24 months, cracks began to show both within Pep Guardiola himself, but also in terms of the players responding to maybe some of the things that he was doing. And he didn't seem to have the same level. Last season, they came up short in moments when you really wouldn't have expected them to. And even if we think to the final couple weeks of the season, they got themselves right back into the title race. They were maybe favorites again with sort of 5 matches to go, and then just sort of imploded. So that was very un-Pep-like of that City team. So it was probably the right time for him to leave. Maresca, I don't know. Jury's out, I think. Obviously, what we saw from him at Chelsea doesn't make you think that there's no way he'll fail. But he wasn't also at Chelsea for long enough, and Chelsea are such a basket case anyway that, I don't know how much you can read into that. But
And I mean, I guess the other big talking point for City, besides Pep leaving, is they have the biggest signing in terms of transfer money with Elliot Anderson. I think that was 115 or something around there,
115 million pounds. Yeah,
pounds. Yep. Played great in the World Cup. I think some people criticize him a little too harshly.
Played well.
I thought he was one of England's better players.
I think great is strong.
Yeah. You're right. Great is strong, but one of England's better, more consistent players in the World Cup. So putting him into the midfield probably to replace Rodri.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing, right? Rodri leaving. Rodri's gone off to Barcelona. Kind of a shock in some ways, and you feel as if City in the last 5 years have been at their best when Rodri's been available, and so it's a drop off. They are not the same style of player. It's not a like-for-like replacement. And at the same time, I don't think there are many players who really can replace Rodri. He's the best in the world at what he does in that sort of sitting in front of the back four, protecting them, and then also just winning the ball, distributing the ball simply, helping a team retain possession. We saw how important and effective that was in the World Cup itself. He kind of just helps teams tick. And those are big shoes to fill. You also look other experienced players they've lost, like Bernardo Silva. There's a lot of little pieces of the City team that have drifted away over the last few seasons.
It's okay, Eddie. One drifted back, and that is Jack Grealish.
Yeah, Grealish is back. And look, if you're going to say the interesting thing for
he
Maresca,
was the glue that held that club together.
Well, Guardiola, the biggest criticism that you can level at Guardiola is that he sort of neutralized the individual talents of a lot of players. And, I think he made some of them better in terms of the understanding that they have of the game. But in terms of their effectiveness, their ability to be sort of game changers, limited that. Will Maresca coming back give obviously Jack Grealish another chance? He probably wouldn't have had another chance if Guardiola had stayed. Will it give someone like Foden a good opportunity to really refine form? And yeah, if you're being optimistic, you say like, well, if Foden gets somewhere back to the form that he had 2 seasons ago, I hate the expression like he'll be like a new signing, but in a sense, because that usually is what I get told is. Yeah, but that's usually what I get told as like a Blackbird supporter of like, hey, I know we haven't signed anyone, but this player who was injured for all of last season is coming back. He'll be like a new signing. It's like, yeah, but he was shit before he was injured. So the Phil Foden example is different because he was world class and then he went seriously off the boil. If he gets back to being the player he was, 2 years ago, then that's a very different looking sort of piece within the puzzle for City than that they were missing at times last season. So I don't know. It would not surprise me if this City side won the league. There's some weird things.
I guess we didn't bring it up. I mean, doesn't need to specifically be said, but they still have Erling Haaland, right? They still have the best goal scorer in the Premier League. Like, so that has to count for something. And
it does.
I think you could also say he's coming off of a great World Cup. And maybe that experience will help him out in what seemed to be what people would criticize him on a little bit is big game performances, big match performances. Maybe that confidence he builds from coming out of the World Cup, basically being like the star of the World Cup in a way. Maybe that helps push him forward to be even more clutch. So not only is he a lethal scorer putting 3 in, on a random day, but then he can put 2 in against Arsenal to push them through. Maybe that'll help a little bit more. But you still have Erling Haaland. So
I still think in the in the last year anyway,
that's
even
80
for
points.
City, right? He scored. Yeah, I think the thing with Haaland, the more and we discussed it during the World Cup, right? If I were Maresca, I would be looking and showing Haaland some of what he did in the World Cup and saying, you were a more active participant in Norway's build-up play and even some of the pressing and closing down than you are with City. So can we get a little bit of that out of you? And I think you could have an honest conversation with him of like, we don't need you to do that against the bottom half, or even maybe, but when we're playing Arsenal, when we're playing Liverpool, Chelsea, we maybe need you to do more than just be the lethal finisher. Like, that's great. And we still want you to have one chance, one goal. But sometimes in order for us to maintain more pressure, we need you to be participating in that pressing in a way that you maybe haven't been at all times for City. And so that would be the thing. Can he take some of that from what he did for Norway over the summer? And then my concerns a little bit is like, they got rid of Trafford and they kept Donnarumma. I understand why. But then Maresca likes his goalkeepers to be sort of heavily involved in playing out from the back, and Donnarumma is not a goalkeeper who's good at that. It's part of the reason why he ended up at City in the first place, because PSG wanted a goalkeeper who could play out from the back. So you sort of worry there that maybe like it's not Maresca's squad yet. So maybe they need a season or two when he can, and even the signings of like Anderson, right? Like, how involved was Maresca in that decision versus in terms of his vision for City versus, that ball was in motion even before, in all likelihood, before Guardiola was leaving. Now, there's also this idea that Maresca knew he was going to City months and months and months ago. So maybe he was giving his thoughts on players even before he was officially involved. But I don't know. I think, could they win the league? 100% yes. But this is the first time in a long time where I'd be slightly surprised if they won the league.
I want to get through the next few, and then we can. I want to have a little question about the top of the table. So the next one, City without Pep. What about Liverpool now without Mo Salah? Is that going to be an issue for them moving forward? Kind of a new era of Liverpool, almost, you could say.
It's definitely a new era, obviously. But, like, a lot has changed since, again, in 2 seasons, you've had a couple managerial changes, and now most of the players that you sort of associated with that Klopp era are gone. I think Mo Salah was not, he was sort of a spent force. So it's probably a benefit almost for him to be gone from a Liverpool perspective, and that you don't have the pressure of like, well, he needs to start some games, and also we need to bring him on. Like, if with 15 minutes to go, we need a goal, you got to bring Salah on, where in reality, he might not be the best option. So,
Yeah,
no,
and
I'm not
I think
worried
you can
about that.
rely a little more on Isak and let him just cook.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be worse than he was last year, right? So, like this is the thing is for Liverpool, you've got to be optimistic that your £100 million forward looks something like £100 million forward this season. And again, I guess maybe the theme, he'll be like a new signing because he basically wasn't a signing last season. So, we'll see. But I think it's probably I think Liverpool need to go through a little bit more of a rebuilding process. And it feels like they're still a season or two away from really being title challengers again.
I guess speaking in the trend of new managers, the next question is, what does Chelsea look like this year with Alonso taking the reins?
I mean, obviously have to be impressed by what Alonso did at Leverkusen. So, if he can in any way replicate that, then, and we spoke about it when he was appointed, right? That has to be a sign of what the Chelsea, like their commitment to bringing in new players and allowing him to shape his squad. Like he wouldn't have chosen to go to Chelsea, especially with the ties that he has to Liverpool, if he didn't feel like that there was going to be serious investment in that team. I mean, obviously this summer you had Morgan Rogers sign, Maxence Lacroix signed as well, Kenda, Palestra, Chavaria. They spent a lot. The headline signings for them obviously have been Welbeck and Henderson, which, I mean, fine. I'd be worried if 7 months from now we're talking about how important Welbeck and Henderson are. But in terms of experience, to be within a squad that's obviously otherwise extremely young and maybe lacks some leadership, you can understand why those signings make sense to, but yeah, I think.
And actually, I think the Morgan Rogers signing actually was a little bit more than Elliot Anderson, so I might have misspoke on that. I forgot.
Rogers was £117 million, and
so £1 million more. So I guess
£2 million more, without knowing obviously what the breakdown is there in terms of add-ons and other things, but because transfer fees are always so misleading, But I think I'll put it this way: I think Chelsea have a much better chance. Plug your ears, Chelsea supporters, but I think Chelsea have a much better chance of winning the league, say, than Liverpool. I think Chelsea will finish above Liverpool. And
sorry,
I think
sorry,
Chelsea's
your season's just been ruined.
I think Chelsea's chances of winning the Premier League are almost as good as Manchester City's.
Okay, wow. And then the last talking point of this kind of bigger group here, obviously, is Manchester United. You could almost say sneakily, quietly finishing third place last year, a little bit under the radar, as much under the radar as you can be for being Manchester United. But is that consistent? Is that gonna repeat this year? Do we see another higher end performance from them, or will they kind of drop back down a little bit like I had in the previous seasons?
Yeah. Everything Michael Carrick did went well last season. And so I think you have to be positive about him being the permanent manager now and what we saw from them in the second half of the season. And also the development of some of those players, who, like someone like Šeško, who didn't totally hit the ground running, but seemed to be finding his feet in the latter stages of that season. They haven't done much in the transfer window. They signed Santos and Tielemans. I mean, Tielemans is like he's not exciting, but he's a good player. He does a job. He's extremely experienced. I expect them obviously to be challenging for Champions Leagues. I mean, there's so many Champions League spots now, but I think they'll obviously be in contention for the top four. And I actually think that this season will start to re-cement the sort of big five at the top of the table. We've had recent seasons where Villa kind of throwing themselves in there, and a couple of other teams competing for top 4 spaces, where that's been Newcastle at times, or a couple of other sides as well. I think we'll start to see the Premier League sort of settle down a bit more, where it's very top heavy with those big 4, big 5. And yeah, I think United will continue their development, but I can't see them making major strides from what we saw from them last year, which is still positive. Like, if they're going to finish 3rd or 4th, that's still a great season for them. But unless they come out, you sort of have to feel like Bruno Fernandes was amazing last year. I don't know if he can replicate that this year. And they'll be good, but I think they're in sort of tier 2 more than in tier 1.
Wow, what a great segue, Eddie, because this was my next question is, we are not a power rankings podcast. We don't like to do power rankings, but we do enjoy tier rankings.
Yes,
that is
sure, yes.
That's an offshoot of the power ranking, is the tier ranking. I would argue, I think in the last few seasons, you had 2 tiers at the very top with City and Arsenal, and then your next tier. This year, do you think it is still a City and Arsenal tier above, or do you think now Chelsea, United, and Liverpool have kind of closed the gap to be, like you said, like a big 5 tier 1?
So I think Liverpool the gap is bigger than it was previously. And obviously, a couple seasons ago, we would have put Liverpool in tier 1. So I think they are continuing to drift slightly. I won't believe it till I see it. That was always my argument with Arsenal. So I think I have to keep the top tier as just Arsenal, City. Okay. And then tier 2 being Liverpool, United, Chelsea. I'm going to drop Villa out of tier 2, to be perfectly honest. I think I'm a bit concerned that they've lost more than they've gained from transfers in recent times, and that eventually the wheel, I think when you think that they've lost Rodgers and Tielemans and Dean, how confident
and only really
am
signed what? Yao Gomez?
And Menzabi from Freiburg was a big signing, but like Garnacho, I don't even... And I know that was just done to sort of grease the wheels of the Rodgers deal, so it's not an indication necessarily of sort of what they think about the future of their team. But I don't know. Like, Villa felt like a club in recent seasons where almost everything was kind of going their way and for long periods, and I think the cracks might just start to show a little bit this season. So I'd put Villa then into tier 3, and I don't think the gaps between the tiers are very big. Like,
now, do you have United in tier 2? So you have the 3 of them. You have Liverpool, Chelsea, and United. You think they're back into a tier 2?
I mean, they finished 3rd, right? So how can I not put them in tier 2? It would be...
Well, you said consistency and
well, or I need to see
showing you over time.
And we saw them do it last year, right? We saw them finish 3rd. So I would say that the gap between tier 1 and tier 2 is probably as small as it has been for a decade. And then on top of that, I don't think the gap between tier 2 and tier 3 is also huge. I would put Liverpool, if I sort of put on the bubble, I think Chelsea are the closest to moving up from tier 2 to tier 1. I think Liverpool are the closest from dropping from tier 2 to tier 3. And that Villa are obviously the closest of moving from tier 3 to tier 2. But I have some doubts.
Now, as a mini talking point here, coming off of a very, every season seems to be getting longer and longer. And then you've put in the World Cup. That was the longest World Cup ever played. Chelsea have no European football. Is that a positive, you think? Is that something that could actually propel them up a little higher?
Yeah, it definitely is going to help, right? And we've spoken about that. We spoke about that a couple seasons ago with Arsenal, right? When they found themselves in a similar position of not being in the Champions League, and how useful that is. And even that was sort of the spin when City got knocked out last year of this could help in the title run-in of not having the same number of matches and as competitive of matches. So definitely allowing yourselves to focus, not having to kind of slightly change your style of play, because obviously you don't play in the Champions League in the same way as you do in the Premier League. So that's going to give Alonso more opportunity to really sort of bed his side, get his tactics set, be consistent in their approach, have players really know their roles. He's not going to have to, not that I think it's confusing but he's not going to have to explain to Cole Palmer of like, when we're playing in the Premier League, this is what I want you to do. When we're playing the Champions League, you need to have more defensive responsibilities, or we're not going to move the ball quite as quickly. And we're going to, I think that's probably advantageous. So yeah, I mean, Chelsea have a huge squad. So of all the teams, they should be most capable of handling the burden of both European and domestic football. But yeah, I think it has to be seen as a positive for them.
I am also very high on Chelsea this year. So
oh boy,
I'm very sorry, Ali.
Well, all Chelsea listeners. It's not just Ollie, right? Like we get,
but Ollie will take it the hardest.
Well, he's the
one who most believes in the curses.
He's the only one with a direct point of contact to us. That's the difference. It's not as if
he's a true believer of the curses.
Yeah, but no, I think things should go well for them.
My next talking point is...
just to wrap that up, the bold statement I will make is that Chelsea will win the Premier League before Liverpool next do. That okay. I would bet huge sums of money on that fact. Whether that takes 27 seasons, I don't know. I won't put a timeline as to when that bet will cash in. However, I feel extremely confident that they will...
Maybe you can find that at a bookmaker.
I'm sure I could. It wouldn't be...
They might be out of business.
I think they'd probably give you like even money. It's just a match bet, right? So it's not going to be particularly... It's not like I'm coming to them and saying, I think Blackburn will win the Premier League before Liverpool do next. And I could get good odds on that. I don't believe that. But, I think they'd probably give me 10 to 11 on both teams in a match bet on that. And, do I want to bet to sit off with money frozen for 16 years at less than double my money? Probably not.
So we've been discussing clubs, mostly up at the top in the previous seasons. I want to go and discuss a club that has been in free fall lately, and that is Spurs. Are Spurs going to turn it around this season?
Yeah, I don't think...
Nearly relegated last season.
Nearly relegated the last two seasons, but especially last season. Yeah, I think
really close
I like
last season.
I like the signings that they made. Tonali is a good player. Fernandes is a good player. They sort of fixed their midfield early in the window with those two signings. Van Heck, who I got to benefit from watching when he was on loan at Blackburn for a season. I think he's a very solid defender. So yeah, I think Spurs will make more signings over the remainder of this window. They seem to be one of the clubs that's trying to do the most. I know they're trying to shift Richarlison, so that might dictate what the signings they make from an attacking perspective. But they've been linked to a lot of different people. Yeah, I think they're already. I don't think they were as bad as they were, obviously, over the last two seasons in terms of the talent that's there relative to the results. You've got a new manager there. I think I'm going to put them in the tier 3.
Tier 3.
Straight away.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there are, so for listeners know, I think there are 6 tiers.
Okay. That's a lot.
Because I think you basically have 3 top half tiers and 3 bottom half tiers. Is sort of how it works. And Spurs are in tier 3.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are in tier 3. I think they may have had the most successful summer transfer window in terms of kind of trying to revamp their club. Obviously you can't deny like a signing like Elliot Anderson is a massive signing, but multiple good signings. I think that will be instant contributors to Spurs. I agree with you that they would be in my tier 3 now and not in tier 4, 5, or 6 of the almost relegated tiers. And then I guess keeping on your tier 3 trend, you already kind of hinted at this, but Villa have been an underdog story. I don't know if you can call it an underdog story anymore. with how consistent they've been, kind of in that top level. Where are they going to sit for you now? Are they just now going to be a top a club that is always fighting for Champions League and levels like that, or do you think they fall back down a little bit?
Yeah, I think they dropped down a bit. I know that the money in football has changed so dramatically, but I sort of feel like this. I'll mention Blackburn more in this Premier League preview than any other podcast will. So we can have that as our claim to fame. But like when Blackburn were always sort of fighting fifth, sixth, seventh at one moment, my feeling as a supporter was always two things. One, if we don't really get over that hump and put ourselves, and I know Aston Villa have played Champions League football, but like really put yourself into the mix at the top. Like back then for Blackburn, it was like if we can just get ourselves in the Champions League, you can sign a higher caliber of player, you have more money, and then falling out of that feels harder. I don't feel like Villa were able to really totally cement their spots. And kind of United success last season, I think, is an indication of that. That actually, once one of these teams sort of figures it out, they're gonna move past you. And then my other concern is, and I felt this way with Blackburn, like you're always going to lose players. Like Villa are going to lose someone like Morgan Rogers to a bigger club. And it's never going to be the reverse. They don't have the buying power to like go to City and unsettle Erling Haaland. That's never going to happen. So it's not a bi-directional relationship with how they can sign players. And I just feel like the concern there is that your batting average in terms of the signings that you make then has to be way higher than what the other big four, big five can do, because they can fail and try again and sign sort of proven players at times. Like again, I don't think Elliot Anderson goes to Villa. But City are in a position where they can say, hey, Forest are good, and Elliot Anderson's one of their best young players. Let's go get him. And as soon as we declare an interest, he'll move. Villa, on the other hand, are like, maybe we can pluck a player off of like, if a Burnley player does really well, we can get him, but we know we have to be sort of picking off that sort of bottom third of the table. And so it just worries me that you need everything to keep going right for you. They've got obviously players who are getting older, some players are leaving. Yeah, I think they're trending downwards.
So it sounds like your tier 3 is shaping up with Spurs, Villa. Are you also going to put Newcastle in there, and then drop your fourth tier to kind of the middle of the pack, or is it just Spurs and Villa in tier 3?
I think it's just Spurs and Villa in tier 3.
Okay,
now. I think so. Then let's drop Newcastle down.
Okay, then we get to tier 4. This could be one of the more interesting groups of clubs, because this, last year, I think the teams that you're going to put in here were all teams that could win a game against the top club, but also, lose against the bottom. It was a very mixed bag here, with the potential, with kind of being Newcastle, Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton, maybe Nottingham Forest as well.
I'm not going to put Forest in this tier, but I am going to put Palace in this tier.
Okay.
So it's the biggest tier.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to put Palace. Look, they won the Conference League. They've been consistently competitive in cup competitions. In the league, maybe not been as consistent, but haven't lost a lot.
The question tied to this, I should say, is then who will be your biggest surprise club going into this season, and could it maybe be then Crystal Palace?
I think in essence, how competitive I think Chelsea will be means that if I said what do I think is the biggest surprise, is probably that I think that Chelsea are going to be like right up there, because I think most people expect Palace to be competitive mid-table, sort of competing for those European positions. I'm very high on Brighton, I will say. I mean, their signings are so consistently good. It makes it hard to kind of grade the quality of their transfer windows, because they lose players. They lost Jan Paul van Hecke. They lost Welbeck, who'd been excellent for them. But at the same time, they sign these players and they bat, again, to use the kind of batting average, they bat like 750. So, and I don't know. I don't know how to know how good Zadok Johanna will be coming into this season, but based on what we've seen from the sort of Brighton scouting department over the last 10 seasons nearly now, you have to assume that of the 3 or 4 signings they've made, at least 2 of them are going to be really good. So I think Brighton will finish higher than Newcastle, for example. Like I think Brighton will be at the top of tier 4. And again, if I put the bubble teams, I think so Brighton closer to tier 3 than they are to say tier 5. I think at the bottom of that would be at the bottom of tier 3 would sort of be Bournemouth Palace, and Newcastle. I mean, it's hard to be positive about Newcastle. Eddie Howe's left. Seemingly, there's an issue here with the Saudi money is not flowing in the ways that we thought it was going to be. That's a theme of all of the sort of PIL investments recently anyway. They lost Guimaraes, they lost Tonali. Those were 2 players who were good for them. I don't know. I think it's hard to be too positive about Newcastle. And to me, in a sense, Newcastle, like everything I said about Villa, Newcastle are sort of 1 or 2 steps ahead of that pessimistic view of like, God, you were so close. You got into the Champions League. It felt like you were a couple of key signings away and just a little bit more consistency from really pushing yourself into that top tier, or at least cemented in tier 2. And you couldn't stay there for quite long enough. And the wheels are starting to come off. And now you're going to find yourself like bottom mid-table versus competing for Champions League football.
You didn't really mention Brentford. I don't want to leave out Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I predicted Brentford to get relegated last season, and then they proved me wrong. They had a really good year. I mean, they signed Callum Wilson and Jadon Anthony. Like, I don't think either of those are signings to get too excited about. I'm putting him. Yeah, I think
they're a solid tier 4.
Yeah,
I think they're right in the middle of tier 4.
I think they're at the bottom of tier 4.
They're not closer to third tier. They're not closer to 5th tier. They're like right in the middle for me.
I'm going to put them as the biggest regressors of the season.
Okay.
So if you want my bold predictions, obviously being high on Chelsea and very negative on Brentford, I think those would be 2 of my stronger positions probably.
Okay. So then that would bring you to your tier 5, which if I'm keeping your head correctly would be Leeds, Everton, and
Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are teams, I'm kind of trying to explain my tiers, I guess. Like tier 1 is title challengers, tier 2 is like solid Champions League, tier 3 is fighting like maybe for the Champions League and the rest of the European spots. Tier 4 is like your mid-table. Maybe you could get involved in competing for Europe, especially because there's so many European places now.
Which Crystal Palace will be, and that actually might be a negative for them. We talked about Chelsea not being in it.
Yes, and Palace have a small squad. Yeah. So it's the reverse of Chelsea, a small squad, European football, stretched at times maybe as far as they can be, and that can be an issue. They've got Palace also has some very injury-prone players, including, I obviously follow Adam Wharton's career quite closely. He's sort of permanently semi-injured for them, which is a shame for Palace. It's a shame for England as well. But yeah, you worry there that they might have too many matches. And also, I think if you're Palace too, it puts you in this tricky situation. I don't know what the internal conversation is. You saw like winning the Conference League last year. Now you're in the Europa League. In a sense, if you're Palace, you kind of say like, well, we're not going to win the Premier League, and we're probably not going to get into the Champions League spots. So should we almost prioritize a Europa League run where maybe we can win the Europa League and finish 12th in the Premier League. And like, is that still a better season than finishing 9th in the Premier League, but going out in the, early knockout stages of the Europa League? So that's also the tricky thing of how much will they prioritize European football over league football. But yeah.
So I guess getting into your last two tiers, then maybe the easier way to discuss it would be talking about the recently promoted clubs. So Coventry, Hull, and Ipswich. Will they be relegated, and are they in the bottom tier relegation zone? And who would join them in being potential clubs that could be relegated?
Yeah, so Hull, I think, have absolutely no chance of staying up.
Yeah.
They
made it off of what? They were 5th or 6th in the playoff?
Yeah. The fact that they even got promoted was a huge surprise. And then I don't begrudge them this. They know that they have no chance. They're not going to overspend on players who aren't good enough to keep them up and who will want to leave 12 months from now when they get relegated. So, this is year one of the yo-yo strategy for Hull. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep as much money as they can from being in the Premier League for one season, go down next year and try and, build a very good championship squad, get promoted, and like gradually over 6 or 7 seasons try and build something that can keep them in the Premier League. They have no chance, though. I think if you stuck this whole side back in the championship, they're not even getting promoted. So, it's hard to be too positive about them. I think Coventry will also definitely go down. They play really nice attacking football, but realistically, I don't think they're competitive enough.
And Ipswich has been here before, more recently, so maybe the yo-yo strategy could work.
Yeah, they're like stage 2 of yo-yoing.
Yeah.
I still think they're in the yo-yo mode, though. This is, and I say, obviously, it's just we've had Ipswich Town-related people on the podcast and friends of the podcast there, so hope that they do well, but, and also you lost Kieran McKenna, so you got a shift there in terms of the manager who's really guided them to their success over the last few seasons.
So I guess out of those three, which one do you think has the best chance? Like if one of them were to not get relegated, who is it? I think it's Coventry.
I think it's Ipswich.
Okay.
But I feel pretty confident that those are the three that are going down.
Okay. How close will Fulham and Sunderland be?
And Leeds, I guess, are also in my tier 5.
And Everton?
Yeah, I don't think that close. I think Everton will be quite good this season, sort of, kind of competing for that sort of, somewhere in the, I expect they'll probably finish somewhere in the sort of 12th to 14th range. I think Leeds are, going to struggle, that's for sure. They weren't great last season. Signing Trafford, that's a nice, addition. But, is a goalkeeper going to be the difference maker for you in terms of really moving up levels within the Premier League? Probably not. And Sunderland too, you have to throw them in, right? They've got European football. So I think they overachieved last season. And now they're like Palace. They're going to have a very stretched squad. And Palace, I think the difference for them is they can kind of prioritize European football, knowing that they really shouldn't be sucked into a relegation scrap. Whereas Sunderland could find themselves in a real relegation scrap, but also be in the knockout stages of the Europa League. And how do you handle that if you're playing, if it's March, April and you're playing they're playing Ipswich in a relegation 6-pointer, but 4 days before that they have a big Europa League knockout game. Who are you resting? When are you resting? So that could be an issue for them. That's for sure. But I think, we've had a very competitive Premier League overall over the last few years, where there's been a lot of upward and downward movement, and with the likes of Manchester United and Spurs being near to the drop zone, and teams being upwardly mobile, like the unexpected success of say Brentford. I think, in the same way that I feel this sort of settling, I think there's a sort of sediment settling at the bottom of the Premier League too, where I think we're going to go into a few seasons where the bottom 5, 6 are going to be well off what the rest of the league is. And in part, I think that's down to the fact that the top 6 or 7 are becoming more solid. And so they won't be able to pick up as many points. Like you won't get the, Palace just beat City at the Etihad. Like, I don't think that's going to happen as much anymore.
So with that, who is your prediction for who will win the Premier League this season?
I'll say Arsenal. And I may change over the. I
disappointing.
I reserve the right.
Disappointing.
Look, I'm not here to, look, I've been accused many, many times as being an Arsenal hater. I try to call it as I see it, and I think they're the favorites to win the Premier League right now. But I reserve the right to change. Some seasons I say I will not change, and until it's mathematically impossible, I'll still believe. This one, I might reserve the right to change, like in September, October, if what we're seeing from City is a lot better, or if Arsenal are struggling a bit.
And then you discussed what 3 will get relegated. What about Golden Boot? Do we just stick with Haaland? Is Haaland like the is it Bill Simmons that does the Mahomes, like bet on Mahomes for the Super Bowl MVP, or is that Cousin Sal actually might say that? Like just always bet on Mahomes to win Super Bowl MVP until it proves you wrong after a while.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming off what we saw him do in the World Cup. I don't know why. Yeah, I think
so. He is currently 4-6.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like printing money, to be honest with you.
Alexander Isak is 8-1. Thiago from Brentford 12-1. João Pedro Chelsea 16-1. Ollie Watkins 20-1.
Yeah, I mean,
Gyökeres 22-1.
I mean, the thing is, right? Ollie Watkins is rumored to be possibly like he's going to Saudi Arabia, isn't he? So
still on Bet365 odds.
we obviously didn't discuss that in speaking about, but I mean, he's supposed to be the Benzema replacement at Al Hilal, so that's a further blow to them, because it's not easy to replace what Ollie Watkins has been for Aston Villa over the last few seasons. Okay. Any other sporting topics to discuss? Should we move on to pop culture, our pop culture roundup? Watch the Dink?
Oh, I'm so surprised you watched it.
I watched it. I do like, what's his name? Jake Johnson? Is it Josh Johnson? Jake Johnson?
So, one of those. Some combination of Jake, Josh, John.
It's definitely Johnson, the guy from Jake Johnson, who was obviously most well known for being in New Girl. It's not awful. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to do, because for those unfamiliar, it's like a movie about pickleball. And the concept is that he's this sort of former professional tennis player who's now a sort of struggling pro at a country club. And for reasons that can only be explained by watching the movie, he has to start playing pickleball. I actually thought there were some genuinely funny moments within it. It'd be a great plane movie. I'll throw it into that category. For listeners, it would be firmly in a, can this movie like pass the time of 90 minutes? If I fall asleep during it, I won't mind.
Download it on your phone on Apple and watch it.
Sure. But I'm sure at some point, right, it will be like Apple TV with Sky Team, right? Doesn't a lot of stuff appear on Sky Team flights? So
Maybe.
it may already be. TV shows definitely do.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it makes it on there. It's like kind of fun. The only bit that bothers me, there's two and again, it's like Ted Lasso. I can't take it seriously. But they put a lot of work in to try and make him a sort of believable tennis player. Like Andy Roddick's in the movie. He did a lot of work with Andy Roddick, and also they did a lot of work with some of the best tennis coaches in the world. He keeps referring to himself as a former tennis pro. And that really bothers me because he's a current tennis pro, because a tennis pro means it's like being a golf pro. You're like a coach at a club, and it indicates that you're a very good player, but what he means is like former professional tennis player.
Yeah.
And whilst that might sound like a pedantic thing to pick up on, it's like a huge difference. Like if I meet someone and they say I'm a former tennis pro, I'd be like, oh, okay, you're a good level. That's not at all the same as saying I'm a former professional tennis player. That would be the one thing. And then also, he really struggles to play pickleball. He's supposed to be this quite talented tennis player, and it makes it seem like he can't just hit a ball at first.
Let me ask you this. How long does it take? How long does he struggle?
Not super long. And
I've seen a lot of people, like, when I was playing more regularly, obviously not so much now that I'm injured, but like you would get people in there that would come in that had played tennis at higher levels, and within a month they're
and we're talking about a guy who played
better.
Professional tennis, right? So his hand-eye coordination, and like what I do understand is that tactically, if they did lean a little bit on that, like he tactically was doing stuff wrong and he was like stepping into the kitchen, stuff like that. That's fine to me. That, like, I can understand that you're like, your instincts kick in, you're going to volley a ball and you're losing the point because of that. He first goes to hit a ball, like to serve, and sort of hits it into the bottom of the net. Like that doesn't matter. And they kind of deal with that a little bit because, again, not trying to spoil the movie in any way, he plays Andy Roddick at pickleball later in the movie. And there is a moment when Andy Roddick, who I guess the implication is has never played pickleball before, but Andy Roddick, like he plays a point and wins, I think, the first point. And Andy Roddick goes like, oh, it's like tennis, but easier. And, that's that's fine. That's sort of, so they don't make it seem like Andy Roddick struggles with pickleball as a beginner.
And when you're saying struggling, like, is he struggling
really
against like the pro, like against the pros, or against like
he starts
people down
playing
the
against
street?
He starts playing at like a random event with like 70-year-old women, and that's part of the joke. And he can't hit the ball. The first couple times he's like not hitting the ball in. And again, that doesn't.
Okay.
But honestly, that the movie got off to a really bad start for me with that. It recovers. In the end, I enjoyed it. It's got some funny moments. It's not laugh out loud all the time. John McEnroe makes a pretty good cameo. Has a great line. Like
don't spoil it.
I can't really spoil it, but
Johnny McEnroe has been in like so much shit the past like 10 years. He lives now off of just being like that guy. And that's that's awesome for him. I mean, like his Curb episode is it's probably one of my favorite Curb episodes with he
does a great job
book.
Yeah, he does a great job of playing a heightened version of himself. But this doesn't spoil it. This is just one line. But I know you love quotes from movies. But there's a moment where he's sort of sitting, watching, won't spoil why, like this pickleball game. And then someone turns to him and goes, "Are you John McEnroe?" And his response is, "What gave me away? My face and body?" And that was like, it's a pretty good line, but and overall he continues to have he is the funniest thing and he's only in the movie for maybe 10 minutes, but he is the funniest thing within the movie. But it's watchable. I give it a watchable review.
Okay. I will eventually watch it. I mean, it's on my list, but I think, like you mentioned, it might be a good movie, like plane movie. I'll just download
Excellent
it and
plane
watch
movie.
it.
Excellent plane
Because the
movie.
plane, I haven't found many good movies on the plane. The last like 3 flights I were on, I was struggling to find a movie worth watching on the plane. But
Yeah.
maybe now that'll change because like a lot of bigger movies have just hit like streaming, so maybe that'll change a little bit.
It's a highly recommended. It will get you through 90 minutes of a flight pretty quickly. You'll be engaged, entertained, but as I said, if you fall asleep, you won't feel like you've got anything. You can jump in and out of it if you're drifting in and out. It's fine. Now, positive review for the Dink. Negative review for the Odyssey. So 2 movies that...
Again, wait. We started the podcast off with saying, like, if I could predict things, Eddie would say. The minute the Odyssey was, like, even previewed, I could have wrote down in my notes, Eddie will say this is not a good movie. He does not like Christopher Nolan, and he does not like when people enjoy things.
What are you talking about? I do like Christopher Nolan. And I actually think
you like Dunkirk. You like the English-based movie. That's the only movie you like.
No. I like Inception. I really like
Tenet.
Like the Prestige, I think for me is Christopher Nolan's best movie. Tenet, I don't like. Tenet's when he started to go off the rails, because that's the like, if you don't get it, it's because you're not
recently.
No.
It gets better.
I'm sure it does.
I will genuinely say that. Like the second and third time I watched it, I enjoy it more. And big Robert Pattinson head, so.
Yeah. I enjoyed Oppenheimer. It wasn't, don't think Oppenheimer was a bad movie. I don't think it was as
we might
good
have to go back to your takes on Oppenheimer.
I think I enjoyed Oppenheimer. I think my big take was like, it was maybe too long and slow at times. But I enjoyed Oppenheimer. I think for the most part, there's not many up until this point. I mean, I don't think I've seen absolutely every. I've not seen Following, Christopher Nolan's first movie. But I've seen every other Christopher Nolan movie aside from that, based on this list. And I would say I like the vast majority of them. It's true, I'm not a huge superhero person, so I don't rave about the Dark Knight trilogy in the same way that some might. But I still enjoy them.
I got to go back to your Oppenheimer take, because I'm pretty sure you're like, there's no way Oppenheimer should have won Best Picture.
Oh, I 100% agree on that. I'll defend that point. But that doesn't make it a bad movie. Me saying it didn't deserve to win Best Picture doesn't mean that can't be equated to me saying it's a bad movie. And I'll say this now: the Odyssey does not deserve to win a lot of Oscars.
I think it's going to win a lot.
Of course, because it's.
I have not seen it, but this one is, I think, very geared towards me, because I really like Christopher Nolan films. I really like the majority of the cast. So obviously, huge Matt Damon fan, huge Robert Pattinson fan,
all right.
and I'm a big of like that era type like move. Like, so for instance, one of my favorite movies growing up was Clash of the Titans. I don't know if you ever seen Clash, like the old school.
Okay, I mean,
Clash of the Titans.
Here's the thing: is this is Clash of the Titans. Is my base.
Love it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm gonna love this movie. I know I will.
I don't doubt that you'll like it. I agree there. I can't spoil the Odyssey, because I mean it's literally a poem that's existed for 2,000 years.
Don't spoil it, Eddie.
I can't. Plot-wise, I can't spoil it, because it's pretty true in a lot of ways to the Odyssey. There's some decisions taken, some of which are interesting, some of which, I mean, I'm not a huge. I'm not some.
I know the one is the Helen of Troy, right? Is that one of the interesting ones you're talking about?
No, to me, the big interesting ones is Odysseus has no direct interaction with the gods, whereas in the Odyssey, he speaks to the gods at different moments in time. And that's kind of feels like a weird choice. And then also the only one that bothered me that I kind of remembered very distinctly from either reading it when I was in school and plus different versions of it that I've seen previously, is when he's dealing with the Cyclops, he doesn't speak to the Cyclops. Whereas that's actually a big plot point. Like, he has the interaction when he talks to the Cyclops and kind of like semi-tricks the Cyclops. Yeah. And there's none of that. The Cyclops is just like a big doofus who kind of just, like, yes, they poke his eye out in the end, but
Hey.
Yeah, look, there's no spoilers for this. It's the fucking Odyssey. It's literally sort of, it's unspoilable. But what I will say is, and it's beautiful, there's no doubt, like, as with all Christopher Nolan movies,
the
cinematography,
commitment to real special effects and lack of CGI.
Yes. And just it's very dark. Again, it's very loud and it's very dark. It has those two things going for it. And I can tell you, I was happy it was very dark because next to me, so I was sitting in a theater where there was no one to my right. There was 3 empty seats to my right. I was on the side. So I had one person on my left, no one in the 3 seats to my right. There were people behind me. An hour into this movie, I kind of could feel the seat next to me kind of moving. And I looked over and the guy behind me had taken his shoes off and then stuck his bare feet in between the gaps in the seats. And his bare feet were just there. I couldn't believe it.
No wonder why you didn't like the movie. Come back, come to America and watch it in a proper IMAX theater where everyone has their shoes on and tell me you don't like it.
And I literally gave him 2 or 3 glances back of the flash of I've seen your feet. This is gross as shit.
That is so gross.
He seemed to, not only that, he was then doing he was rubbing his feet to obviously he had moments where he had an itch on the top of his foot. And so it was scratching it with the other foot. He was amazing as behavior. So I had that. So the darkness at least helped with me to sort of semi-ignore that.
No wonder why you had a bad experience. That's disgusting.
The other thing that happened is I also had a bit of a cough because I have a little bit of a summer cold. I was happy about it because it's so loud that there were moments that I could actually cough during the movie. And I couldn't even hear my own cough. So I at least knew I wasn't being disruptive to the other moviegoers.
Did you watch it in any special version? Or was this just standard movie theater?
Very nice movie theater, but not an IMAX.
It wasn't IMAX or 70 millimeter or any of that?
I think it was 70 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
But not IMAX. Again, so yes, there are still some, and I don't care. I don't care so much of the sort of historical anomalies, but as we spoke about in a previous thing, it just bothers me that Nolan talks about how much effort he put in. They're in a Viking ship. They're not in a ship that looks anything like what. And I say this just when you watch movies from the 50s and 60s and stuff, when they did a lot of Jason and the Argonauts or all of those old movies.
Oh, I love that movie.
This ship looks nothing like those ships. This is literally, it's a Viking ship. They're kind of all dressed like Vikings, I think is a fair criticism too. They're all very dark. There's not a lot of tunics or anything. They're wearing fur and stuff. I mean, which you're watching the movie and you're this is in fucking Greece. It will be hot as shit most of the year. There's no way they're wearing fur-lined clothing all the time. It doesn't make any sense. But ignoring all that, allowing that to be creative license of his vision, the American accents, they don't bother me. I do think that it's slightly more immersive when, and it's not because I'm British, even though I have my American accent, but I do think when you have British accents from the actors, it kind of makes you think of a more classics approach. And so it doesn't take you out as much. Sometimes there's deliveries of lines with an American accent that feel a bit jarring for the setting that they're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Tom Holland does a particularly good American accent.
Well, this was going to be my counter argument, though. I think you get, I don't know how the right way to even say this. I think you get a more natural American accent from English actors than you would if you tried to make everyone speak British English and have Americans try and do a British accent. I think you could get worse. So I trust English actors to be able to do an American accent a lot more than I do the other way. So I think maybe that's, if you have to choose, maybe you choose American because it is a little easier for an English speaking person to do.
Yeah. But here's the other thing.
I don't think Tom Holland's is bad. I mean, he did it in Spider-Man for.
Yeah, I actually don't think. I honestly,
movies.
listening to him, I don't think it's a great accent. It's a little bit like Tom Holland doesn't make me think that he's not. He doesn't sound American to me. He sounds like someone doing an American accent. Like contrasted to say we both like Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, whilst he does weird voices and everything he's in.
You can't compare anything to Tom Hardy's accent work.
But still, like, he convinces me that that's his accent. Tom Holland does feel like, yeah, I'm putting on my American accent for the movie for a little bit. Like, ooh. And so that takes me out a bit. I know I ripped on Tom Holland defending the usage of dad and mom in the movie. It's jarring. It's like, I can't buy again. Like, you got Tom Holland like speaking and he's Odysseus and blah blah blah, all this going on. And then like, leave my mom alone. Like it's like it's like, come on,
you
guys.
make him sound like Mickey Mouse.
Hey, it's not far off. It's like that does kind of remove you from the immersive experience that you're trying to be put in.
I just think the use of the word mom and dad as like an adult is just weird. Like when you're speaking, not like if you're speaking to them, but if you're speaking to someone else, like
I would say
in
I'd say
public.
Yeah, my mother, my father, like yeah. Especially in this idea, he's supposed to be like a 19, 20-year-old who's trying to be more mature. And I know, again, people are defending Tom Holland because they're like, the whole point is he's supposed to be kind of like a little kid and not, but he's trying to be more mature. So at least if he was saying like, when my father comes home, it won't be like this. But instead he's like, when my dad gets back, it's like, fucking hell. So there's that. My dad's been gone for 20 years, but I know my dad's not dead. It's like, it's all right. I came out of it with a Robert Pattinson aside, who I think is the shining light within the movie of like,
he's awesome.
I came away from that. I think he's the only good actor in the movie.
Ooh, well, that's tough because I think Matt Damon is favored to win the Oscar right now.
Matt Damon, I think, and I like a lot of Matt Damon movies, but I think we saw, at least feeling on it.
Easy now.
I think you saw the limitation of Matt Damon as an actor. And my feeling is that most people, I don't think acting is that hard. And I think most people are just sort of like, they're comfortable in playing themselves. And that's like, I think I came away from this being like, we saw Matt Damon reached a little too far in this one. Like, this is not a guy who should be playing like a role in a Greek classic. And on top of it, I think it's a knock on Christopher Nolan. This whole like, I use the same people in all my movies. Maybe it turns out that the same people who were in Oppenheimer aren't necessarily the right people to be in the Odyssey. And that shouldn't strike any of us as being tremendously surprising.
Hey, he added John Bernthal.
Yes, the person who I think of when I think of Greek classics. Like, in a sense, it's the same way that I've criticized like Pep Guardiola for not being able to adapt and sort of, you're going to die on this is the hill you're going to die on. And Christopher Nolan, it's like, this is my thing. I use the same actors for radically different movies. And the shame is from it is like, there are people who Christopher Nolan has used previously who I think would be like way better in this movie.
Tom Hardy?
Possibly. Christian Bale for sure is an infinitely better Odysseus than Matt Damon. He's a better actor.
This is a bold take here.
To me, Christian Bale is a good actor. Matt Damon is like a good star.
Oh no, I don't think you're crazy.
What's the best acting he's done up until this point? Like when you're like, that's a real acting movie. It's like Good Will Hunting might be the last time he's really.
The Departed.
He's not. No, that's just the same shit. That's just the same shit.
What do you mean?
Like it's not acting in the same way. It's not like embodying a completely different. I mean, he's playing like a kid from fucking Boston who's, it's the same stuff.
Who's like a double agent.
Yeah, look, I'm not getting wrong. Like, it's all acting. I'm not saying but it's not the same. Like Christian Bale's the example of someone who plays like radically different characters in different eras with different personalities. Like, Matt Damon's kind of Matt Damon in every movie. It's not a knock on it. I love a lot of Matt Damon movies. I think Ben Affleck would have been a better Odysseus than Matt Damon. I think Ben Affleck's a better actor than Matt Damon. But, like,
I don't think that.
But I think, yeah, Tom Hardy, Christian Bale, they're both infinitely better actors than Matt Damon. And both, because ultimately my issue with Matt Damon in this is he doesn't do a good job of representing what Odysseus is, which Odysseus is a guy who's making mistakes and is kind of cocky, right? Like throughout this, as he's making these mistakes. But you need to believe that he's still sort of like lovable and revered by his crew. In this, you're just like, Matt Damon's just a fucking dick. Like, obviously there's like mini mutinies throughout, and you're like, why aren't you guys full on mutinying? He's making, like, he's just an asshole leader at this point. Like, there's no reason. He doesn't have any really redeeming character traits. But yeah, I mean, Anne Hathaway, take it or leave it for me in this. Tom Holland, stick to the Marvel stuff. Like, his limitations are exposed. Zendaya's in the movie for like in total probably about 3 minutes of screen time. It's just her staring at Matt Damon while he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and then it's just Zendaya close up of her like looking at him. I don't know why that needed to be like a famous person. I how accurate this is. Supposedly she got paid $5 million to be in the Odyssey. That's fucking
crazy.
Highway robbery. I mean, it's like, like, get me her agent, because that is. And I also read, I saw interviews with Matt Damon where he said, oh, Christopher Nolan's always just like post take, like good, or whatever. And then Zendaya did something and he was like, wow, amazing. So I saw this going into it, and then I was watching the movie. I was like, there's no moment in this where you could have been wowed by what she's doing on screen. She says 4 lines. She mostly just stares. Was the stare that hard to get?
That's why you ultimately hate this movie, is because Zendaya's in it.
No. I don't, like, but honestly, I think you see the limitations. Like, this could be my deep take on this, and this is the most snobbish thing I can say about it, is that I think parts like this need to be played by people who like grew up being like in plays, playing Shakespearean parts. Sort of that's their background. So when they then get asked to play Odysseus, they tap into it from an analytical perspective that's different to Matt Damon, who's just been in movies his whole life. And that's why I think when you
mean more like Brad Pitt and Troy.
Yeah, right. Excellent example. But like, that's why I think when you rewatch something like Jason and the Argonauts, and those are people who grew up playing, like acting in a different way. I think they can do it. And that's why I would have had more faith. I do think like Hugh Jackman would have been way better in any number of these roles than who he ultimately chose. It's my take. I walked out of the movie and I said, if I had watched this, like if you took all the star power out of this movie, if I had just heard like, hey, Netflix has done like a new version of the Odyssey, and it's with like a bunch of B-listers that I kind of don't really know, and it had been exactly that movie, I would have been like, yeah, it was like pretty, but it's not great. But we're going to convince ourselves, and a lot of people, I say that we're going to convince. This is the movie's mostly getting negative reviews. Like this is not, whilst it might end up winning Oscars, critically it's been panned for a number of things. Like big fans don't like it. The historical issues. I mean, with like what Agamemnon's wearing.
It's a fictional book.
No, see, actually, this is where I disagree. It is fictional, but it's based on true historical events. And actually, within the movie, Nolan has tried to stay true to some of those historical events. He's weirdly ditched the like fictional elements of it. So it's like Odysseus doesn't speak to the gods. However, he interacts with the real historical figures that we know to have existed, and he interacts with the sort of same, but he kind of ditches the mythical part of it in lots of ways. I mean, the Cyclops is there and other things, but like, and he goes to Hades. So he like can go to Hades, but he can't speak to Zeus. Doesn't make much sense to me. He like, I don't know. I do feel like Nolan's sort of trying to be like, whoa, it was historically inaccurate, but it's not real. Okay, jackass, then don't make the fucking Odyssey. Like if that's what you want to do, go and make your own movie. Like don't pick the sort of like epic poem that basically is considered to be the thing that resulted in modern literature in many senses. Don't choose to do that, but then be like, I can do with it what I want. It's all made up anyway. Homer might not have even been a real person. Like it's all fucking fictitious nonsense. And also there's some messages coming out of it, right? He's trying to make messages that speak to the modern person. And that's in part why I think he ditched the gods, because the messaging might have been kind of lost. Some of the lines, and I know he's been ripped on some of these lines, some of the writing. I mean, I went into it knowing that people made fun of. Matt Damon literally says, like, our age of bronze might be coming to an end. It's like fucking bizarre because it means that someone living in the Bronze Age knew that they were in the Bronze Age. Which
they knew that bronze was big and that something better was coming.
Yes. Like it's so stupid. It's so, again, little things that just like instantly take you out of the movie. Where again, if I was like watching like a Netflix or Amazon movie, I might give a bit more of a pass. But this is Christopher Nolan spent years working on this, and again, no one could have gone during the writing process. Like maybe we cut the fucking Age of Bronze line. Like this isn't great.
Okay, you got it out of you yet, or still going?
The equivalent to me of that is like if I go and watch 1917, and midway through the movie, someone's like, "This is a terrible war, but I'm sure something worse will come within the next 20 to 30 years." It's like, okay, weird line. We currently refer to this as the Great War, but in the future, it might be the First World War. Mankind cannot stop themselves from doing this again. Like it's so stupid. Doesn't deserve it. It deserves Oscars for everything relating to cinematography and like fine, sure. Anything relating to acting, fuck off. Like those people, no chance. I think
Damon and Hathaway are both favored right now.
Anne Hathaway at one moment too, you can watch out for it when you go to see it. She does this very modern. She's kind of just comes across as like a little bit of like Tom Holland's like a piece of wood in the movie, and Anne Hathaway's just like unnecessarily being like kind of a bitch to him in ways that I don't think Penelope comes across in the original, but also too in weird ways, like talking about how weird it is that Tom Holland says dad. Then there'll be moments Tom Holland will be like, what is it you need? And she'll be like, I need Odysseus, which is like, she's speaking to her son. So it's kind of bizarre that then at that moment, she wouldn't be like, I need your father. I need your dad. Like
he just really didn't want to say father.
No. Like she's like storming out of the room, like I need Odysseus. Like it's sort of bizarre to me. And she does this very modern. There's like he's saying I can take the throne, and then she's sort of like, you think you can take the throne? She does this like very modern head wobble.
Oh no, you didn't.
Yeah, like as if she's a character, but like as if she's a character in Mean Girls or something. And again, it's such a sort of micro expression almost. But as I saw it, I was like, this feels so modern as a response. I don't know. I didn't like it. So yeah, that's my take on Odyssey. I'll put it tier 5 for movies. It's on the bubble of 6. It's relegation territory. It's definitely the worst Christopher Nolan movie I've ever seen. I'll say that. And I came out with less respect for absolutely every single person involved in the movie. Every actor and Nolan.
I can't wait to love it. Now I'm just going to want to love it. I don't know if I'm going to see it anymore. It's now my favorite Nolan movie.
Because that to me, I know you'll like it. You like Matt Damon so much that you're not going to be as hard on him. But I would be interested to see if I get your honest ranking of like where it sits within the Nolan movies. That to me is the only honest way, in a sense, because there are things that won't bother you as much, and at the same time, you like certain actors way more than I do. I just feel like it's such a miss because, in a sense, this movie should be for me. I love this style of movie, and they still couldn't get me into it.
It's not full pirate enough for you.
No. It's a shame. It's a shame in that respect, but
yeah, I've been planning to see, I wanted to see it in IMAX, and then I think now it's out of IMAX here, so I'm just going to go to normal.
Don't bother. Don't go see it, but like, again, too, like, you don't have to see it the way Christopher Nolan's told you to see it. Don't, fuck, I'd watch it on my phone.
Screen.
I'd watch, so you could see more of a gray sky of Greece. Like the weather is just atrocious all year round. Greece famous for it. And Turkey as well. And the last thing too, and again, this is something that's being ripped by, this is not a unique take by me. The way he depicts the Trojan horse is so ridiculously stupid. Like, these aren't spoilers, obviously. Everyone knows what the Trojan horse is. Every depiction I've previously seen of the Trojan horse, it's on fucking wheels. And it makes sense it's on wheels because there's people hiding inside it and they want them to take it inside the city walls because that's the whole fucking plot. This Trojan horse isn't on wheels. It's like semi-buried in sand. The people inside of it are like semi-drowning in the water at different moments and times and like pissing and shitting on each other. Like, and then they have to get dragged fucking miles whilst they're all just like inside, like tumbling about. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like,
Eddie, wheels weren't even invented yet.
Yeah, it makes you come away with it being like, oh, the Trojans deserve to get absolutely decimated because if they were this dumb, not only to accept the gift in the first place, but having accepted the gift, to put in the level of effort, they could have just made the fucking Trojan horse, remade it inside for less effort than it took. Like, because this is the stupid part, is if really they did it the way, again, it's not true, but like if they did it the way that Christopher Nolan is portraying, a more likely outcome would be like, let's take it apart and rebuild it inside. Like, take the wood of, oh shit, there's people inside. Fucking kill them all. Oh dear. Like, instead, thousands of people are involved in like the kind of building the infrastructure to drag it into the city. It's so silly. It's so stupid. But yeah. And the only other person who I quite enjoyed in the movie. So I did think that, I don't think it was Robert Pattinson's best acting job anyway, ever. But he's good. He's like the best in it. Bernthal is actually not bad.
I like Bernthal.
I do, but Bernthal is like, he's a limited actor. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be playing the Punisher. He's not supposed to be playing this type of role, really. I think when you're basically just a meme, like, you should know what you're supposed to be cast in. The only other person who I actually think does a pretty good job is like Elliot Page. I actually came out feeling like he acted well. He's in a very small part. But everyone else, the worst. I'll single out the worst. Let me just check who it is. Oh, John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. If you told me that they did something like the Akron Zips and Christopher Nolan had like run a raffle for who got to play that part, I could have believed it. He is fucking dire in the movie. I mean, just like, and it's not helped. He's playing a blind character, right? I think that's always hard. You run a serious risk of looking pretty stupid when you're acting blind, because I think people overcommit to this idea that blind people are like constantly looking in random places at all times. Like, I don't know that many blind people. I interact with blind people a few times a year. I worked with a blind person for a while. When I spoke to them, they knew that they can get the sense of direction of my voice, and they looked at me. I wasn't talking to them, and they were like, oh, are you on the ceiling now? I don't know where all of this is coming from. Like,
but this is a long time ago, Eddie. So maybe blind people weren't as aware then.
Yes, it's true. They've evolved since then to not make themselves look quite as dumb. And the Agamemnon costume. I mean, it is like, he looks like fucking Darth Vader or Batman. And there's one moment the gates of Troy open, and he's just like standing there as this supposed to be this like intimidating figure, but it's like, fucking hell. Like, A, just everybody kill him now. He's just standing in front of some open gates. But B, this literally looks like a scene from Star Wars of sort of doors opening and Darth Vader's there.
Well, that was a great quick synopsis and review you've given of the movie.
Yeah, and we can debate some of these points more once you've also seen it. And
Can't
it's
wait
good
to
too.
rehash them.
It's not like the movie hasn't been out for a month, so it's very fresh.
All right. Well, with that, we should call it a day.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
See ya.
Oh, bye.
Cheerio.